Oh, okay.
Okay, smile. It's working out. Setting up meeting for YouTube Live. It's still going, but just get ready to smile.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. Right. That's not a
Hi,
smile.
guys. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see you guys. Welcome to Sports and Shopping with Doug Plank, former Chicago Bears, number 46, and Megan, former Miss Texas. Frank J. Bennett, it is such an honor to have you with us.
Oh, you guys, you flatter me. Thank you.
So, Doug, what's been going on with you?
Just more of the same, Megan. I love it, real estate, because there's so many functions to it. But there's so many things, other things that are just part of life. Friends, I've had an unbelievable number of friends that have visited me recently. And that's not natural. If you live in a Sun Belt area, you just have to expect that. I would say, January, February, March, even into April. So that's really been what's busy. I'm always looking at ventures like Frank and yourself, Megan. Always keeping eyes open to opportunities and doing things that I really would like to do. I think I told you for 20 years I was running fast food restaurants, Burger Kings, and I don't know if I had another 20 years in me. Mayonnaise, lettuce, tomato, pickle, ketchup, onion. Um, it wears you down because it isn't just you. You're trying to run each store with 100 employees. You're like the president of the United States. You're giving talks every day. You're solving problems. You're coming in at 5 and 6 a.m. The latest was 6 a.m. That's when we opened. I usually was there like 5 or 4:30, and I would stay late, 11, 12, midnight. We didn't close till 2 o'clock. And so I'm just saying every job has its drawbacks. And I'm thankful to be doing this with you, Megan, and having the ability to reach out to people like Frank and find out some really, unique individuals and just some things that you would never, ever have realized had you just been on your own.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah, I just think that, we have so much to give to each other and share. And, everything I've ever done in my life, whether it's sports, there's a thing called team in sports. That means there's other people with you. And I don't know of any teams ever in my life that have only had one individual on the team produce and the other one just take off, loaf, whatever, not produce. Everything that goes with team, family, cousins, relatives, the neighbors, all those sort of things make a huge difference in your life. So instead of me just trying to make everything right myself, I now am attracted to other people that have it going. They're doing the right things. They're making the right decisions. They got great families. They enjoy themselves. They enjoy each other. At this stage of my life, in my 70s, I want to make sure that I'm with people that are just positive thinkers and really want to get the best out of life. That's it.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way, Megan. I mean, we're all in different locations, different places. And, we all meet with different people. And, that was one thing I just encourage people. I grew up in a town of 3,500 people, but some people say, well, geez, weren't you biting off more than you could swallow, Doug, trying to go to Ohio State and Chicago Bears and doing all these other business things? You know what? I would rather try something and fail than never try it. I think I told you a story, Megan. There was one time in my life, early on, just out of high school, and I made some decisions in college as far as majors were concerned, which were underperforming. You can get a lot of degrees in college with just being there every day, just showing up, just attend it. You're going to pass. Now, does that mean you gave great effort? No, you didn't give great effort. You just showed up. How many people in this world right now are saying the same things? I'm not going anywhere. I'm showing up every day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I see now they're trying to cut the work week back to 4 days. So now it will be a 3-day weekend. My point is, I never wanted to be stagnated in one place. whether geographically or professionally. And I always felt like life is about, having a bunch of different bites out of the apple, going different places, meet different people, try to achieve different goals. And that's what I do. That's what I do on a daily basis. And now I'm shutting up.
Oh, that was an amazing intro, Doug. That was incredible. You're incredible. Well, I'm just so excited that we have Frank J. Bennett with us because he has amazing stories. So he's a best-selling author. He is a Bible teacher. And what his unique thing is he talks about the paranormal space. He talks about the paranormal space from a whole different perspective. And what do you have, like 5 books, Frank?
That's about right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got like 5 books.
To be fair, not all the books I've written are about the paranormal. I write about what interests me. I just happen to have lived the paranormal, and being very scientifically minded, I examine what is before me. So that's the basis of my writings.
Well, number one, you guys, I can tell you straight off the bat, I'm going to put all this stuff in the YouTube so that you all can see it. But the point is that you can go to Amazon. All you got to do is Google Frank J. Bennett, and you will find all of his information. I'm going to put it all in the links for you guys so you can find him. But I was really honored to be able to meet him at the Hollywood show a few weeks ago. And I was so intrigued. I was so intrigued with talking with him. I'm like, you need to be on Doug and I's podcast. I said, because you're so cool and have such an amazing
guys. Dang, my head's getting so big. I ain't much. Dang, I listening to Doug, honestly, when he was talking about the going to college and everything he's gone through, honestly, I saw so much of that in my walk. So many people out there trying and, putting themselves out there. Some people have the drive to go. Other people don't know where the drive button is. I mean, it's just, and you could take 1 billion college classes and never find your drive button. It's just the way it is.
That's so true.
And
that's a good way to
I'm
say
acquainted with people who have studied everything and still don't know where they're going. And that's where I was in the 1980s, going to 1990s. I was one of these people with no direction. I learned everything I possibly could, but I was heavy in the gym. I was trying to be a competitive weightlifter. That went nowhere. And I was actually getting work as a bodyguard because I had the look of one. And, the whole time I was building my body and making myself look intimidating and strong and filling my mind with all this, the one thing I neglected the most was the thing that won in the end, and that was my spirit. And nobody ever figures for the fact that your spirit is everything about you. And most of us wouldn't know what it is, separate from the man on the moon. And there came this time in the early 1990s where my spirit got so tired of being suppressed and ignored and forgotten. It just overwhelmed all of me and drove me to my knees. And I found myself begging to a God I really didn't believe in to save me. And that was what changed the other part of my life. And with succeeding situations before me, I eventually decided to start writing. And that's how I run into fine folks like you. I book myself into shows all across the United States, and the Lord puts people in front of me. I don't advertise. The Lord puts people in front of me who have needs. And I would be at a Comic-Con in some, Greenville, North Carolina, or whatever, South Carolina, or Charleston. And somebody would come up to me and they had been suffering horribly at the hands of paranormal entities and hauntings, and don't have anybody to talk to about it. No one would understand. They'd laugh at them. And lo and behold, they go to a Comic-Con to entertain themselves and meet other people. And bam, they come across a guy like me. And lo and behold, 60 seconds in, I'm finding myself holding these people while they're sobbing on my shoulder because they've suffered so badly. I'm that little surprise you find. I mean, I could advertise all day long, but in the end, the Lord's going to put people in front of me who need to talk to me. And that's how I conduct my business.
I know, and it's so incredible. It's so incredible. But tell us some of your stories. I know Doug wants to hear them because Doug and I talked about it. Like, tell us some of the stories that you've run into that are just so incredible.
Well, in my first book, Encounter with the Aberdeen Wild Man, A True Story, which, by the way, I need your addresses so I can send you both copies.
Okay.
Autographs are extra. I'm kidding. The Aberdeen wild man is a humanoid creature I encountered along the shores of the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland, where I grew up at in February of 1980. And I can't tell the whole story, we don't have time, but this is the coldest day of the year, and I'm 17 and I don't know nothing. And I decided it would be entertaining, since we didn't have, game systems and cable yet, to just simply get out in one of the local lakes or rivers and just walk down it to the Chesapeake Bay. I mean, everything was frozen. It was something like 2 degrees outside. I got as far as I could, and I'm at the Chesapeake Bay. I'm in the marshes, and there are these little islands that dot along the side of in the marshlands. And in this one island, I get this really strange feeling while I'm looking out over the bay, this really bizarre feeling that something else was there. And I'm looking at the birds flying in formation across the bay, and I realized I can't hear them. And there's a gentle breeze, and the tall marsh grass, which is about maybe 5-6 feet high at that time of the year, is rustling past me, but I realize I can't hear it. And then this feeling that something was with me suddenly turned into something rushing up behind me. And so I turn around and look, and about 100 feet away on one of these small islands was this man staring at me. At first, I thought it was a black man, but I grew up with black people, and I know what black people look like. This was not a man. It looked like the skin was burnt charcoal to a char. And I couldn't make out a nose, but the eyes were very large and tiny pupils. The mouth was very small and pursed. And to this day, I still remember seeing sunlight reflecting off the top of its forehead. Beautiful, bright, sunny day. Problem is, you could freeze to death. And we stared at each other for probably about 45 seconds to a minute. And I'm one of these people where, the wait is worse than the conflict. So I wanted to start something. So I had a knife. I had a bayonet actually on my belt. And I put my hand on the handle of it. And when I did, this creature launched into this gigantic fit of rage. And it started running all over that island, screaming and hollering. And it was the voice of a man, not an ape. And I could tell while it was doing that, it was wearing a white button-down shirt and blue slacks. Granted, it's about 2 degrees outside. Never did I see breath. And it's screaming and hollering. And through its thickets, I could make out the pants. I couldn't make out hands or feet. And it reappears right back in the exact same spot as before and stares at me again. And I couldn't move because behind me was water. I couldn't get out of there. And it had me cold if it wanted to. And when up to that point, you could have had me convinced I was looking at a man, because it was not unusual back in the 1970s and early 80s for somebody to have too much of something and to have to go into the woods and sleep it off. That was not unusual. And then I watched it leap vertically 15 feet straight up into the lowest branch on the tree overhead, scurry up, and then proceed to go running through the trees, screaming and hollering like an ape. It's about easily 60, 70 feet up. And I'm standing there watching the tops of these trees pitching back and forth from the weight of it. And I still think it's going to come.
Freaked out? Weren't you totally freaked out?
I was 17, scared, and didn't know anything. All I could do was stand there frozen and wait to get attacked. That's all I knew to do. And again, I couldn't run. I would have to run past it to get out of there. And this goes on for probably a solid, 45 seconds. And then it disappears along the back of the tree line around the back of the island. And I don't hear it for a while. And then nature comes back. I can hear the birds again. And I can hear the tall grass rustling again. But then I can hear the dogs. You see, there are farms that typically surround a lot of the Chesapeake Bay area in that county. And I could hear the dogs going off on each and every farm in succession, one after another, after another, after another.
While he was running by them?
That's my assumption, because I did not actually see it. About 6 years before, 6 years before, we had seen Sasquatch. Upper Baltimore County, outside Baltimore City, is horse country and a lot of farms. And we had seen Sasquatch. And when Sasquatch appeared, it was the exact same thing. Every place it went, the dogs were going crazy on the farms and whatever, land it walked onto, and it was following a creek that went through those farms. And I very carefully made my way after everything got quiet out of the marshes. And I thought it was over. I was wrong. There's a point where the marsh kind of gives way to the forest, and the trees start getting taller and taller and taller when you're actually then in the woods. And then I think I'm safe. Okay. And then behind me I hear shh, 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 shh. And I stop and I look behind me and there's nothing there. Not even birds. And I walk a little more and there it is again. And whatever that was followed me 2 miles out to the highway. And that is why the Aberdeen Wildman encounter is kind of like my feature story in the book, because I encountered something that I sensed it before I saw it. So it had a very strong spiritual field about it. Okay. I was the only thing out there besides birds. But also I watched its physicality. And in the book, I'm examining that Sasquatch, other creatures I had seen and encountered, paranormal entities I had seen and encountered, along with those of what other people have reported they have encountered. And I'm looking at their characteristics and I'm drawing conclusions. And I'm comparing that to science and scripture, physics also, by the way. Because God invented science, it would be a shame not to use it.
So what?
And that's how you ended up running into me.
I know that. So I got to ask you though. So other than, your story is pretty intense. Like your story is very intense. And the bottom line is, when you're working with people who are having paranormal experiences, like what do you find with them? Like why? Like, because these experiences, when you talk about them, people are like, you're crazy, right, Doug?
Well, that's what they're used to hearing. If I may have a minute, that's what they're used to getting.
That's what I'm saying. The first response is you're crazy.
Right. But you see, when I question them about it, and I'm listening out for things I already recognize. Maybe somebody has something new I haven't heard before, which is cool. And I'm doing calculations in my mind. And, you never judge because you went through it too. And not only are they looking for somebody who understands what it's like, playing in the NFL for all those years and the injuries you got to walk away with and live with for the rest of your life. Only people who have done it know it. You can explain to people all day long what it feels like, but in the end, if you're not wearing it, you don't understand it. And that's what this is like. And
I'm sorry.
I can help some people, but I'm not equipped to help everybody. I'm not a psychic medium or anything like that.
Well, Doug, you know what that's like. I mean, you understand what he just said. The NFL, like until you live it, you don't understand it.
You know what? I was really taken back, Frank, when you were talking about, spirits and just faith in God, a higher force. And because there's so much danger in especially football, especially when you're going out on a football field and 99% of the players are all bigger than you. And now all of a sudden you've got to act like you're some sort of a powerful being that you can knock people down and intimidate them and tackle them, when in fact they're much larger and stronger than you are. So it's faith really has to come into this. You really say prayers literally every single game that you can survive this game and you can live to the end of it. And, we've seen recently, even over last season, how several athletes, their heart stopped for basically no reason at all, in anticipation of a hit. They weren't even hitting anyone. It was the anticipation. And how many times, athletes their hearts have been restarted on a field, on any field. So, I really enjoyed that about sports. I don't think there's too many non-believers in football. When there was a prayer time on our teams I played with at Ohio State and Chicago Bears, everybody in that room was holding on to each other, saying prayers for each other. And I definitely believe in the spirit of God and his success. And, I just feel like there were times in my life, like you said, Frank, that I just knew there was something else going on inside of me than a heart beating and me breathing. There was a connection with a higher body of control. And, you're just very humble, humility. You're praying that, for safety and the cooperation of everybody else on your team. But I think it's an element that many people just don't want to admit to. That it's there, and all you have to do is knock on the door and ask for permission to be part of the group, a believing group that respects and believes in a God. Otherwise, like I said, I haven't ran into too many players that didn't have.
Oh my, that totally reminds me. Okay, so I love this conversation. And you know what? I want to say thank you to all of our YouTube followers. We love, this is like, for Doug, it's Mountain Dew. For me, it's coffee. For Frank, I don't know. But the point is that like, this is coffee time and Mountain Dew time for Doug and I. And it's so fun to visit about this kind of stuff. But I got to tell all of you a really funny story. And Frank, you're going to appreciate this because, again, we're just all having a casual conversation. And I just wanted all of you that watch Doug and I to meet Frank Bennett because he's incredible. And you got to go to Amazon. You got to check out his stuff. But seriously, but listen, this is so funny. So I'm in Vegas, right, for the Super Bowl. And I've told Doug this story already, but I want to tell all Doug's fans this story. So I'm at this big event in Vegas for the Super Bowl, and it's called Legends. Of course, sometimes I can be a little bit of a blonde. And so I'm at this thing and I'm like, okay, legends, what are legends? Okay, hello, Megan, you're at the Super Bowl. I walk into this huge event and everybody I'm 6 feet tall. Everybody I look at is like giants and I'm 6 feet tall. And I'm looking at all these people and I'm like, holy smokes, these are all the legends of the NFL. Holy smokes. So immediately I start walking up to all these guys and I'm like, do you know Doug Plank? He's my podcast partner. And they're like, he kicked our butt every time we saw him. These guys were like double Doug's size, like literally double his size. And so I kept walking around the room and I was like, oh my gosh, do you know Doug Plank? Because I finally figured out like, this is all the legends of the NFL. And I'm like, why is Doug not here? He should be here. But every single person I talked to, that's why Doug's number 46. Every single person I kicked our butt every time he saw us.
Yeah, thank you for that memorable, rendition there, Megan. When I was playing,
no, it was nothing negative. It was nothing negative. It was just funny.
It was funny, Megan, because every time I was playing, I was pursued on the field every weekend because I would go out and tackle and hit as hard as I possibly could, just so I could stay another week on the team. I mean, when you're not some tremendously big or talented individual, it's what's in here, your heart and your mind. And those are the things that can control who we are as people, our personality, our physical prowess. And even despite having abilities that maybe didn't match some of the other players, if you believed you could, you could. And it was a matter of every week you had to tell yourself, I'm going to go back out there. I'm going to make this happen. Bodies are going to fly. I'm going to be rupturing ligaments and knee joints and shoulders and concussions. Frank, I've had a number of concussions, 4 joint replacements, replaced both my shoulders and knees. There isn't one moment that I don't wake up every day and, these knees and shoulders are talking to me. They're saying, Doug, get off me. Quit using me as much as you are, lifting dumbbells and weights and rehabbing houses and doing things like that I know are a stress and a strain on my body. But, I would go back and do it. I would do it forever because the relationships that I had during all this time in my life, those are still so strong today. I mean, they're like marriages, Megan. They're marriages to your friends. You will never do them wrong. You will stand behind them and support them in any way you can. And that's what I think too many people, like Frank is saying, don't take advantage of their spiritual opportunities and really make this life something like worth living and be proud of what you've done.
Amen to that. All right, Frank. All right, so tell us about some more experiences, because our viewers want to hear about it, so they buy your books. Don't tell them everything, but just share like how you got into paranormal.
Well, you don't have a choice. I mean, the paranormal finds you, and all of these entities that abide with it, they find you. And I've got so many. If you look at my Facebook page, I've got so many friends who are ghost hunters, and
Yeah.
mediums and psychics. They look for it. I didn't. It came to find me. And the earliest recollection I have of a paranormal experience is when I was around about 13. And it was just something as simple as an innocuous feeling when it just woke me up out of a sound sleep one warm night that something was in the house. And that caused me to, I don't remember if I told you the story when I was with you at the Hollywood show, but it caused me to just simply compelled me to get up and just look around my house in the middle of the night to see if something was in the house. And each night it happened, it just evolved more and more, where I'm then in the basement, or then I'm outside the house, or then I'm on neighboring properties. And the ultimate evolution of this bizarre experience, weeks and weeks later, was I'm 5 miles down the road in the middle of the night in the woods in a state park, and I'm hunting for something, and I have no idea what I'm looking for. And that was what I can recall to be my first paranormal experience. And I labor under the suspicion, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody, and has happened to anybody.
People don't understand. You know, well, when I met you at the Hollywood show, I told you about a couple of experiences I've had. But when I raised my kids in Beverly Hills, I don't live there anymore. But when I was there, I told you I was laying in my bed. My kids were all in their bed, and all of a sudden I heard Megan. And I'm like, hey, there's nobody in the house but me and the kids. And my kids would not say Megan. They would say mom, right? And I walk out of my bedroom and all I hear is Megan. And I'm like, oh, totally freaked out. I was totally freaked out. I went into my bedroom. I shut the door. I locked it. I just laid there and I was like, what is going on? This is so insane. Like, what is going on? What's in my house? How do they know my name? Like, nobody was in my house. I don't know if that's paranormal, but that was really freaky to me. My daughters, I was telling them that I was interviewing with you today, and they were like, tell them about our house and how they called your name.
Okay, well, now real quick about that. We live in a different day and age. Before you think paranormal, consider all aspects of your home. We live in the age of Alexa.
No, I didn't have an Alexa.
Good. Because a lot of people choose not to be. Yeah,
this was
I don't have it.
This was in 2013. 2013.
Yeah. I am grateful that the Lord gave me a lot of pathways in life. Not many of them were really what you would want for yourself, okay? But I've learned so much. For example, because of my very long background in the construction trades and demolition trades, when I smell a bizarre odor in my house, I happen to know in my mind that just because you built a house doesn't mean the materials you made it from stop degrading. And as they degrade, just like a dead body, it continues to give off gases and naturally decomposes. A bizarre odor in your house could be a simple matter of decomposition of building materials. That's a fact. But I don't want to go too far into that topic. People come to me and they're telling me about having a spirit in their house, and they know it by name and whatever. They do not understand that the spirits have this capability of imitating the living and the dead. So just because you've seen your poor dearly departed grandma at the edge of your bed does not necessarily mean that's who it is. It could be a spirit pretending to be your grandma to gain your trust and your favor. And this is why in Scripture Jesus says you must try the spirits, which is why in Latin we get this legal terminology for trial. That's what test means. Try the spirits, trial them, quiz them, question them. and they will not stand up to it.
So are you saying like talk to them? Like when you are in a situation like that, talk to them and say, who are you? Or drill them? Like, what are you saying?
Oh, please, yeah, have an open conversation with them. Who
Oh,
are you? What are you doing in my house, and how did you get in here?
when you're in
Sure.
that situation, you're so terrified. I mean, I told you the
Right.
situation. You're terrified. All you want to do is hide, and you can't hide.
Right, because you're looking at somebody you know is dead, and that plays upon your psychological weaknesses. Okay, right off the bat, folks don't understand the psychology involved in paranormal activity. Entities within the paranormal field understand everything about you, and they know they could push your buttons. They know things about you yourself have forgotten. So they can work on your weaknesses like that. Okay, eventually, if a paranormal occurrence takes place long enough, you get in more or less you're more calm-minded, where you can access some of more of your faculties, and then start to analyze not just what you're looking at, but the environment it's taking place in, and go, how is this possible?
So the key is not to be afraid and to give them
You're going to be afraid. You can't stop being afraid. It's a natural instinct to be afraid. And these paranormal investigators out there who are trying to sell this thing about hunting ghosts and not being afraid are honestly fooling themselves. And it's unnecessarily macho. It's human to be afraid. And the spirits know that. That's why they do it like that.
Well, the other, Doug, this is another great story. I've told this to Frank when I met him at the Hollywood show, which I love the Hollywood show, just to plug for them. I love them, and I'm going to get all of my friends to
You're
be.
Dave, you're Tony.
Yeah, I love the Hollywood show. Doug, I'm going to get you there too. I'm sure that they would like to meet a Chicago Bear guy. But anyways, we'll work on that stuff later. But I'm going to make sure I get that all done. Anyway, but the point is, so my other story, Doug, when I had my mortgage company in Texas, I had bought this historical home, which I didn't know was a actual funeral home in the 1900s, which the realtor forgot to tell me that, right? Realtors are funny. Let's just put it that way. So I buy this.
Everything used to be something, okay?
Pardon?
Everything used to be something.
Yeah. So anyways, but I didn't know it was a funeral home. Well, so anyways, I didn't think anything of it. It was a historical home, but I had made this home into our mortgage company. Well, after I sold the mortgage company, and that was a whole nother story because that was not a positive experience. But the point is, I ended up renting out this home in Texas to this group of like kind of interesting individuals, let's just say. And so I would go there each month with my kids to collect rent, right? And it was a Texas, it was very reasonable. And so one day I walk in and I knock on the door, and I said, hey, it's Megan. I'm just here to collect the rent. And all of a sudden I heard, come on to the back, come to the back. And I'm like, all right, that's kind of weird. I don't want to walk in their bedroom, right? That's kind of weird. They're like, just come to the bedroom. Like they were talking to me like it was a person. So I walk through the house. It was a big house. And I walk into the bedroom and nobody's there. So I call the tenant and I'm like, where are you guys in the house? They're like, we're not at the house. I'm like, what do you mean you're not at the house? Someone's talking to me. They're like, Megan, your house is haunted. I don't know if you know this, but there are people in that house that we don't know who they are. And I was like, oh my gosh, I ran so fast. I ran so fast.
In scripture, there are two things Jesus would refer to people as: a house and a temple. And just as any house and temple can be haunted, so can a human being, because they themselves are also houses and temples. The spirit may not be in the house, it may be simply with that person.
Oh,
I would like to reference the book of Mark, chapter 5.
that's heavy. That's really heavy, what you just said. It can be in the person.
I would like to reference the book of Mark, chapter 5, and y'all probably already know it, but I'll be brief. This is where Jesus crosses the Galilee with one of his disciples to the far country, and he encounters the man beset with many devils. And folks who read their scripture know this. I always bring this up when I speak because it speaks volumes. Not only does he have a spirit with him, but when he asks him, and I invite everybody to read it, see what the condition of this man is under the influence of this spirit. And he asks, what's your name? And he says, my name is Legion, for we are many. And when you research what the word legion means, especially in Jesus's day, that refers to the ancient Roman army, where a legion was a company of soldiers numbering more than 5,000 men, which means that this one dominant spirit inside this one man comprised of more than 5,000 individual spirits. And they're all there to do one thing, and that was to cause insanity. And like I said, I invite everybody to go read it and see what the condition of this poor man was before Jesus showed up, and what the condition of this man was after Jesus caused these spirits to leave him. Humans can be haunted every bit as much as a house can.
That's really interesting that you said that. So my next question is, how do you feel about like when people say somebody, well, you just said it, people can have bad spirits and demons in them. What's your recommendation, or what, like, I mean, what do you think?
Not long before you folks showed up at my table, there was another couple there. And when the lady was talking to me and the way she was looking at me, I knew right then and there, not only was she dealing with bad spirits, but she had been doing it a long time. I could just tell. And because she's affected neurotically by it. Your nerves can only take so much, but I could tell she was affected by it neurotically. And I told her, and I wrote about it. I don't use a lot of analogies, but I wrote about it here in the book, what your spiritual defenses are. It's likened to the Alamo in Texas. And if anybody loves their history like I do, they'll know this story is that it's made to sound like a 1 or 2 day affair. In fact, Santa Anna's armies actually showed up 12 days beforehand. And when the cannons showed up, they laid in siege warfare, where they just pounded the Alamo day after day with cannon fire. And by the time the full brunt of Santa Anna's 25,000 man strong army showed up, it really wasn't much work after that. They just essentially rolled it over the Alamo defenses with superior numbers. That's how your spiritual defenses are. It's not a singular event. It's day after day after day of spiritual attack. And you have to strengthen your own spiritual defenses.
I'm so intrigued by this stuff. Doug, isn't this interesting to you? I mean, like, I didn't know any of this stuff.
When Frank was speaking like that, just think about it in our lives. Every person that we meet is not the same. Some people are maybe happier than other ones. And this isn't a happy, sad situation. This goes much further than that. I've been around individuals which I feel there's something deep inside of them that's evil. And every time that I was around them or heard them speak or any association, everything was negative. And they were trying to not only themselves be a concentration of evil, but they tried to spread this disease amongst anybody else they came in contact with. And it was frightening to me because the individuals that I'm talking about were a number of different individuals through my life that I came in contact with. And I saw what was happening to the people that were following them or associating with them. And it was all bad. Just continually bad things were happening physically, financially, mentally. And you learn a lot. You learn who you want to be around. Maybe that's the spirit in each one of us, that we have that choice, that we could, it's obvious, I think they show up, and the reason why we know that there's something wrong and there's evil inside of them or paranormal is that it's obvious. It's obvious to anybody that has come in contact with something like that in the past. There's some voice inside of you yelling, get gone, get going, get out of here. This is not somebody you want to associate with, even to say hello. Just leave. And many times in my life, I just picked up this body and walked out of whatever the situation was, got in a car, went home, walked home, whatever the case might be. But I was not going to spend another moment with those individuals.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's weird. I didn't really understand any of this stuff until about, I don't know, 6 years ago. I'd say 6 years ago. But people would come to me and they would say, like, "What you're like a light," and I'm like, "I don't get what you mean by that." They're like, "You're a light," and I was like, "All right, well, that's positive. I mean, I think that's good." But I know now, after the last 6 years, I understand what that means. I truly do. But I just think it's interesting. My next question, Frank, and I should have sent you questions beforehand, but you're super smart, so I know you can answer.
Oh, okay. Now, come on.
You can answer anything,
I
but
can surprise you with my stupidity.
where no, I could talk to you for hours, and I know Doug could too. Like, so these spirits, how are they stuck here? Are they like, do they, I mean, like, where do they come from? Are they in between heaven?
I don't want to go too deep. It's a book actually I'm working on, which is very scientifically based. It's called The Spirit Field. And I'm looking at the science and the physics behind how you have to understand they exist in a spirit realm. They are spirit. They have no physical manifestation, no physical qualities. However, I'm examining how something that is non-physical in spirit can come into our physical universe or physical world and make manifest as a solid or a physical being with physical properties. That I know that sounds extremely heady, but I'm examining the sciences how that could possibly happen.
The fact that you have the brains, the fact that you know how to do all this stuff is incredible. And that will be, what's that book going to be called? What are you going to call it?
The Spirit Field. And as you remember, when I was talking about the Aberdeen wild man encounter, I'm standing there at the edge of the marshes and I'm looking out over God's creation. It's a gorgeous sunny day. The difference is you could freeze to death. And I'm enjoying all of this. And then all of a sudden, I just was overwhelmed by this powerful feeling. And that powerful feeling, while I was with it, I could not hear the birds, and I could not hear the tall grass. As a matter of fact, I don't remember feeling anything, honestly. And when I saw the creature, I could only feel fear, but I cannot remember any other senses. And except for the portion where it's screaming and hollering, and I reflect on it, I don't remember any other sounds from the event. But for some reason, while in that state, I was able to hear this thing. Okay. And after it was gone, that feeling went away, and I was able to, detect the environment again and hear it and feel it. That, while I was in whatever that was, is a field of energy. And while you're within it, generated by the spirits themselves, while you're in it, you see what it wants you to see and you hear what it wants you to hear. This is how many reported paranormal occurrences seem to defy physical laws, because it's taking place within a field of energy, which is offsetting the perceptions of the person experiencing it. You may see something and it may not actually physically be there, but to you, it is very real.
All right, this is really heavy stuff.
Thank you. But I'm trying to tackle something. You see, I have to understand our science.
I love it, though. I love it because you know what? I always say, and I say this on my TikTok live show every Monday through Friday, God is with us 24/7. He's always with us. He's always with us. He's always got us. And, just having a personal relationship with him will change your life. It's what my mantra is, because I've lived it and I know it. And, but he's always with us 24/7, no matter what we're doing. We might not know it. We might not feel it, but he's with us. But this is a whole different thing. This is like,
well, this is just me trying to do what other people in my field can't do, and that's explain hauntings. And I need science because God invented science. I need physics because physics governs the nature of our existence. And I'm only so smart. I have to borrow the intelligence of other people to do this. But once I do, it would put everything more into context. For example, you got to ask yourself, this is how I stumped the rabbi at this last Hollywood show. God is spirit. He exists in a spirit realm, heaven. Why did he then create a physical realm? For what purpose?
I don't know.
That'll screw up your brain.
That's a good question.
Hey, Doug, I got to ask you. Have you ever felt like you saw a ghost or like anything like that?
Well, I have. I mean, I felt like I've heard things. Same thing that Frank's talking about at night. You know, you hear things that are happening, and more than boards cracking and woodpeckers picking on the side of your house. You know, these were more evil. You know, not evil, but sounds that were unique, and they just shouldn't have been happening in a house. But you start looking at the context of the world we live in on a planet spinning around, going through space with a whole bunch of other planets in a planetary system, inside a solar systems. I mean, none of this makes sense. So I love the people that say, "Well, I don't believe that." Why? Why don't you believe it? I mean, we're looking at literally miracles every single day we get up. How could all this stuff stick to the Earth, spinning around all as fast as it is? I know there's gravitational pull and all that sort of thing. But all those things are a belief in something that you can't see. So why is this any different? It's not any different. It's there, and there's just too much evidence of it happening in the past that no, I'm truly a believer, and just certain things have happened in my life. You know, dramatic events, not just on a football field, but I'm saying personally that I believe in the spiritual world. Absolutely.
Well, I got to tell you a quick funny story, Frank, just because you met Teddy G, who was with me that day.
The G-Man, right? The G-Man, right?
Teddy G. Well, so anyways, after he met you, this is like 2 days later, and you know, Teddy G's a good friend of mine. Anyway, I talk to him every day, like we're just good friends. He's like Doug Plank. He's like I have like 3 really good guy friends that I talk to all the time and I love to death. But anyway, so Teddy G calls me like 2 days later and he's like, "This is really weird, Megan. I was standing in my bathroom getting ready to meet you because we had a meeting we had to go to for the Mike Tyson movie." And he was like, "I swear to you, somebody grabbed my butt." And I thought it was my daughter doing it as a joke. And I turn around and there's nobody in the bathroom but me. He goes, "I think my house is haunted." I said, "Okay, why would they grab your butt? That's like really weird." He's like, "No, Megan, seriously, I was getting ready in the bathroom by myself. Somebody grabbed my butt and I thought it was my kid like messing with me." And he's like, "There was nobody around." And I walked out of the bathroom and I said, "Was someone in the bathroom?" And they're like, "No, Dad, nobody's in the bathroom." He's like, "Something grabbed my butt." I said, "Well, I said, "You need to call Frank Bennett. You need to call Frank Bennett. He can explain it to you because I have no idea what to tell you." Teddy G is so funny. He's hilarious.
My mind automatically goes to so many places. You know, there are about half a dozen medical conditions that can replicate whatever that was.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People
well, he's like, after talking to Frank Bennett, "I think my house is haunted." And he goes, "And now that someone grabbed my butt, I think my house is haunted."
Yeah, we're kind of hardwired for this form of mythology. This is why stories are told the way they are in scripture and have been handed down through the ages in our mythologies. It sticks with the human mind better when it's written in that kind of context, you know, in kind of like a storyline context. Because as we have all learned, you can give people all the facts, all the details, everything, but in the end, they're still going to think OJ did it.
That's funny. Oh wait, we won't go there. We won't go there. We won't go there. All right, yeah. Frank, please tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. Please, just so it's on video, how they can get a hold of you, where to find you.
Well, just type my full name into Google, Frank J. Bennett. And it's really important you put the J in the middle, because if you leave it out, you're going to get some creepy lounge singer in Las Vegas. I'm not kidding. Try me. But that'll pretty much bring up about everything about me that you would going to want to know, and how you can find me.
Oh man, it's been so fun to visit with you. I could talk to you for hours. Doug, do you have any other questions for Frank?
No, what struck me, Frank, the most was the fact because I was in the construction business myself, and for you to go from that profession clear across the country over into something of paranormal, activities and events. I mean, we all even in that business, I can think of a couple times that I came near death when like a bucket of concrete or something fell off an apparatus or on the side of a building or something. That's a dangerous profession itself, and certainly one that would give you angst to go ahead and believe in God and spirits and all those sort of things because crazy things happen. And sometimes going left versus right is the difference between either getting killed or not getting killed, by something happening, something breaking, a truck malfunctioning, whatever the case. My closest bout with death was rolling a car about 5 or 6 times. And each time it rolled, I had to say another prayer. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And you're a believer after that. When you get out and you climb through the window because all the doors are smashed in, you're saying, I believe in the higher authority living through this disaster. But it happens every single day. Every day we see events that are like supernatural, and it just doesn't happen. Something is creating this, and something is controlling it.
Oh man, well, it's been so awesome. Like I said, I could talk forever, but the thing is that I told Frank an hour, and now we've already gone over an hour. So I want to respect.
Well, you can go another hour. This doesn't stop. Off switch here. Yeah, ask my wife.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, hey, I want to say to everybody who watches Doug and I and the Sports and Shopping podcast, we so appreciate you guys, and we're so grateful and thankful. We love to hear your comments. You know how to get a hold of me all the time, and you can always email me, and I get messages to Doug, so Doug can reply to you. You can always email me at m@megaz.com, and any questions you have for Doug or myself or Frank, I'll forward to all of them. And I'll make sure that we're here to be an inspiration. We're here to be positive, and we're here to show you that God loves you. Quite frankly, God loves you. And never forget that, because that's really important. So Frank, thank you so much for your time. I cannot wait to see you in June.
I cannot wait either. It'll be a hoot.
Yeah, it'll be great. So Doug, you have a wonderful day in wonderful Arizona. I'm so glad we're on the same time zone now with the
Yes, yes.
Same time zone. We're so excited. The little things in life Doug and I love.
That's one thing great about Arizona, and I believe Indiana, the only 2 states that have, don't change time. It's a wonderful thing because you are never ever early or late during the time change. And I know we've all can tell stories in our life where you were either early or you were late during that time period. I got 10 of them. So when I moved here, that was the number one reason. No daylight saving all the time. So it's a great thing.
All right. Well, hey, God bless you guys. Appreciate both of you. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Bye, Frank. Pleasure.